Welcome to the Apprentice One-to-One podcast. I'm your host, Mark Allison, and on this episode, we've got two very special guests, two industry stars, and big helps to the Apprentice One-to-One movement, if that's what we're going to call it, over the last few months. I wouldn't be sat here even doing this podcast if it weren't for these two guys, because they've given me great confidence to come on and speak on things like this. It was something I would never have done, so I want to thank them right at the very beginning of this for helping me move along that journey. Certainly, initially on EGTE. They've also both given countless time in tech support for editing, business advice, and just friendship. I've made friends with these guys through the course of speaking on these podcasts. And so, without further ado, the first one who opened my eyes to where Apprentice One could go into a much bigger scale. He's apprentice trained, perhaps an older entrant than you might normally find, a YouTube sensation, electrician of the year for 2019, and day-to-day spark, Ricky Howell.
I definitely thought Neil was coming first.
Yeah, no, it's not.
We tried that. I thought, why is he introducing Neil first?
That's you. And alongside him, we've got the real industry standard setter, business guru, huge Apprentice One-to-One supporter. He set loads of his own time aside trying to get an app developed early on with Apprentice One-to-One that never ended up happening. But even so, he jumped out with the gym on one occasion to chat for an hour with these developers. He's a chartered manager and fellow of the Chartered Management Institute, podcasting superstar, managing director of UK's Rail, Neil Bridgeman. How are you both this evening, gents?
I feel like it needs to be a fanfare, like...
Yeah,
that was such a good intro. Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
It's going to be a little party, but blower, just one.
And there's a little poppers.
I wish I had one.
You can guarantee it. How are you both, gentlemen, anyway? How are you doing?
Yeah.
Bit out of breath for running around trying to make this. Turning up late.
I feel like he says running, but it was 20 minutes late, so at best it was a slow walk, wasn't it? Let's be honest.
A lot of swearing.
Yeah.
Well, you both made it. That's the main thing. So we're going to have a little journey through the apprenticeship system on this one. We're going to focus down onto it and try and chat about both of your experiences and where you are now in your careers and helping apprentices. So we'll start with Ricky. How did you come into the trade to start with, mate? What was your journey in? Because I think from looking back on your LinkedIn profile, did you kind of get into the apprenticeship system around 10 years ago now, was it? Or a little bit longer?
That's right, mate. Yeah, so I'll keep it short because this story's been told so many times, but yeah. I fell into it. I was 25. My ex, her dad, knew someone who was down the pub drinking, and this guy, my ex-governor, was a bit of a talker, a bit of a cigar lifestyle man, giving it all the old, yeah, we're desperate. Oh, we've got so much work on, so much. We're desperate for blokes. So, well, you know, my daughter's boyfriend at the time, you know, he's looking for a bit of work. You sort him out? He went, yeah. He'd sort him out. Yeah, no worries, yeah. He went, all right, he lives down the end of this road. I called me up. I was 3 doors down from the pub. Went in. Yeah, I don't like talking business at the pub, he said. You've been talking about it all night. But anyway, that's literally how I got me first started it. Then I met what was to be my mentor the first day, Sooty. I was there to unload and load up the vans. That was my job, you know, enough to do with being an electrician. He sent me a couple of tasks. I had half a brain cell, you know, and then I got an apprenticeship, grabbed that both hands. Took 5 years instead of 4 because JTL swung me about a little bit on the 4th year. Didn't have no one assessing me MVQ work, so I had to wait around.
Common story, that, mate.
Yeah, exactly. So it took me 5 years instead of 4. But yeah, it was sort of last chance saloon for me. Well, you know, if I didn't make it, I was working in Sainsbury's before that. Yeah. Just make ends meet, had a couple of kids. And before that, I was an asbestos supervisor, which great money when you're a young man, but certainly not a life career, I'd say, unless you want to die very early. So yeah, here we are, qualified 30, 34 now. So yeah, 10 years next June, I think it is officially.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that was kind of my way in, yeah.
Yeah, nice one. What about you, Neil? When did you first start off in this game?
I come straight out of school. So it's probably the same now. I think it's probably been the same always, that if he wasn't very academic, he was pushed towards trade. I wasn't very academic. I certainly weren't the sort of person that would toe the line and play by the rules. I'd always push against, which is a common thing that seemed to have followed my life. But yeah, I went straight into what was then the YTS system. Mark, you probably would recognise that, which was, for those who don't know, is the youth training scheme, which was, I suppose that was that how all apprenticeships were done for a YTS scheme back in the day, weren't they? We're talking, so I'm 38, so when I was 16, 17, this was the YTS scheme, and it was, I remember, do you remember how old are you, Ricky?
Sorry, mate, I was muted. 34.
34. So did you get a careers advice, a little leaflet from school after you left? And I remember it.
Yeah, but you know, for me, I weren't at school for the last 2 years. Like I never, not you know, it was, long story was that I got bullied quite badly in school, which obviously people still don't believe when I tell them, but I did. I never stuck up for myself. The last 2 years, it was too much for me, so I never went. So I didn't have one.
Well, in Romford, there was a careers office. I used to go down there, and they used to give you, obviously way before emails and all that sort of malarkey, and they used to give you a leaflet, and it was, I still remember it was like a sky blue in colour, and it would be in there, and there'd be placements, that was called, placements for people leaving school. And I went for one at Dagenham, Ford's in Dagenham in East London, and I thought I was going to become a motor, like a wiring the cars. That's what I honestly thought I was going to be doing. But it was this YTS scheme, and Ford's in Dagenham had let the YTS, the company running the YTS, have loaded their buildings to teach the trades. There was brickies, carpenters, electricians, plumbers, all doing their MVQs, etc. And so I was 16 at the time, and that was a paid scheme. So once you joined the YTS scheme, it was paid. For between the age of 16 and 17, a week's wages for me was £30 a week, 5 days a week, 35 hours. That was it. And I remember, plus your expenses, and my bus ticket was more than my wages. So when you got that, you was like, "Ooh, what a big bank balance." And then when I turned 17, it went up to £35 a week. So you get these youngsters now that are sort of £4-5 an hour. It's a hell of a lot more, and this is not even that long ago. I'm 38. I'm not 68. No. I'm 38. So then a local company used to come down. They used to pick out the tutors would give some local companies some names who they thought would be a good fit. And this company called Nomico Electrical that was also based in Dagenham, a guy called John Briggs. Come down and it was not Norman, it was his partner, come down and gave some interviews, and it was very much sort of safety questions, because we were 17 years old, we didn't know that now, really, you know what I mean? This other kid, Ricardo, got the placements, and he didn't finish his apprenticeship. He went on to do something else. It wasn't for him, but yeah, I stayed with that company doing mostly new builds around London, the surrounding areas, and new builds is a fantastic way to learn on an apprenticeship, because you see the full depth and breadth of an installation, and you get the not just the flats or the houses, but especially with the flats, you get the communal areas, the SWAs, the intake rooms. So it's a really, really good place to learn, and I stayed in there till I qualified. And as a lot of apprentices do, think instant double your money is the way to go. But that was a short, hard journey after that. But yeah. I had a cracking apprenticeship with a cracking employer, and I was very, very, very lucky.
Oh, that's good to hear, and it's turned out well for you now, mate, because you've got your own business there with apprentices working in it, I believe, don't you? You actually employ apprentices right now. Yeah,
I've got two young lads on there that was in the last year, and trying to sort their MVQ. But as has been said, how many times I don't know, the gold card is not the end. They'll be getting their gold card soon, but they've got so much to learn. And in terms of expectation management for them, that's what I'm trying to do, is that they've been exposed to some good quality work and a vast array of work. But yeah, are they likely to go out on their own? Yeah, they will. They will go out on their own, but they'll need to be monitored, supervised continuously, but more distance supervised.
Yeah.
because it's important that when you're dealing with safety and especially on the railway I work, that everything is cracking and where it should be. But yeah. So, and hopefully this year, or won't be this year now, but next year, we'll have another one to add to the mix.
No, that's brilliant to hear. And you've been out supervising some apprentices of late, haven't you yourself, Rick? With your company, I've seen the picture of the gentleman on Instagram with a beard even bigger than yours. He's impressive enough just for that.
He's a good-looking boy, and he's a good-looking chap.
He is. So how do you find that, actually, like mentoring someone close up on a day-to-day basis? Because it's not just kind of teaching them the electrical game, is it? There's all the other bits with it, dealing with customers and things like that. Is it something that you...
Be honest, Marcus, the only chance I get to look like I know what I'm doing, mate, to be honest with you. If I work with anyone else just qualified, it goes downhill. No, honestly, mate, I really enjoy it. I've always enjoyed teaching people. It's in Jamie's case, it says a year 2 apprentice, and the blokes weren't in to do anything. So you spend a week with me. Well, you end up spending 2 weeks with me. So you met up having for a week and then swap around. It used to be monthly because we've spoke about it. How long should someone have an apprentice for? A week's way too short. Like a week, you're just getting started and he's gone again.
Yeah.
But the reason, obviously, it was going with some people for a month, and he weren't doing no work for a month. So he said, I've got to change it to weekly. And then at least then when I go with certain people, it's only a week I'm not doing no work. Which at the time was the only answer they had. So now I'm looking to step up to a QS position and take over a bit of apprentice stuff. We're looking at different ways to deal with that, But yeah, I enjoyed it, but I've done it to do no work, do I? Let's just be honest. If you're a spark, in my instance, he does. I did pick up a tool all week.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that a lot of the apprentices have said to me, actually, that through their mentors, if you like, it's giving them the opportunity to do stuff. They seem to spend a lot of time watching. And I guess when it's your own business, if you're talking about a really small employer, then giving up that control to someone else to actually let them start doing tasks, it's maybe not the easiest thing in the world. So to where you're willing to give people that opportunity and actually stand back and watch them and mentor them in that way is a good thing, I think.
And I think you've got to remember, it's not my company. We work on a social housing contract, so the work isn't massively... It's not like you, Neil, where you're working on a railway, where you might have the client breathing over your shoulder. I ain't got know where I am, so I've not got to be eyes on, make sure he's doing everything right. I've just got to make sure he don't electrocute himself, and that he knows what he's doing. And that's what we sort of done with we created a portfolio for him now, because no one knew where he was at. No one knows what he can do, what he can't do, what experience he's got in this, what experience he's got in that. And I sort of laid it out now. So you do the job 3 times supervised, and you do it twice unsupervised, where someone will come and check your work. And then the last time you do it, the QS will be with you. He'll check your work, make sure you've got the technical knowledge, you sign it off, and then you could do that job. And obviously in social housing, it's like changing a pendant, installing a fan, installing a shower, all the way up to obviously installing a board, testing, which is, testing EICRs is probably the most difficult thing I suppose you could do in a domestic environment. So yeah, it's good, mate, but obviously vastly different to working on a railway.
Well, it's funny you say that. The problem with the railways is that deadlines are crucial. You're getting a shutdown for maybe, and this is only occasionally, but occasionally you're getting a shutdown. You've got to have it back up and running for 4:00, 4:30. Yeah. You miss that, you are in the deep stuff. You know what I mean? So in terms of that, sometimes it makes the apprenticeship a little bit longer because you haven't got that time to go, well, if it don't work, it's all right, we'll go back and do it again. It's like, no, you haven't got that, So we said very much, no, shush, shut up, do this, do that, fetch and carry it, you do as you're told, and we've got to get this in. Watch what you're doing, and learn through watching, and eventually you'll get your chance. Whereas I suppose when we do sort of railway arches or retail on the railways, then it's a bit more in context, is a lot more relaxed. If you can afford to take your time with the apprentice and show them the ropes, and if it has to be done twice, it has to be done twice. It's not the end of the world, Yeah,
there's definitely a time and place, isn't there? Like you're saying, and it's good for you to be your contract obligations to make sure they're not costing you money, but also good for apprentices not to be put under that pressure of having to pull that job off without ballsing it up, before they're ready. So,
the fines, the railways is about £150 per minute per train fine.
I can imagine.
In delays. So if you're doing a little 2-platform station, it's not too bad. But going to Waterloo or Victoria when you've got 27 platforms and all of a sudden you've got a lot of trains backing up for a lot of minutes.
Starts getting a bit scary.
Yeah, that money can go very high very quickly.
Yeah, that's an element that probably a lot of the apprentices aren't seeing or thinking about either, to be honest, isn't it? But having you both having experience of people working either with you or in your businesses who might be younger. There's a lot of employers who've said, they can't find young people who are motivated enough to take on these apprentices anymore. Not like perhaps we did in our generation. The kind of almost holding them up as not been the same ilk, if you like. So I wondered if you two had any experience of that. It's not something I've seen myself. I'm just wondering, is it anything you've noticed that maybe young people aren't as engaged as taking on apprenticeships today as they maybe once were?
Not for me. I think a lot of this stuff comes because if you imagine so I'm 34. I grew up at a time when the internet came about when I was at school, for instance. Neil, I guess you've just missed out on that being at school. The internet and the PC world probably as you just left maybe college, university. If you're in your 40s, you miss that completely. So all of a sudden, these gaming computers and Xboxes and PlayStations 5, and then people talk about that, and you think it's a bit of nonsense, didn't you, really? Because you can't relate to it. And I think that's the missing section for a lot of people, that they can't relate to younger people. So then how can you teach someone? You just, from the apprentice point of view, he's being made to feel stupid for saying, like, talking about Instagram. Instagram? Mate, that's where it's at. We know that. PC gaming, playing a game on your phone, playing a gosh, what you do, play a game. Oh, it's pathetic. Well, you can't get a screwdriver. Well, listen, we're in a completely different world now. I think that's the bigger problem, and I think that's what people are saying. So when you get apprentices, they don't really want it. They're not engaged. They're not this. They're not that. Perhaps we've got a bit of responsibility as well to relate to them, to younger people, and appreciate that they've been probably told all for their school life, as you've already mentioned, Neil, that you're not the sharpest tool in the box, so you're going to go and be this. Well, I've never agreed with that. Certainly with being an electrician, I think it's not an easy job. Maybe you could say it's pretty straightforward to get your gold card, once you get there. But as Neil said, and as I've always said, mate, that is literally the first step of the ladder. When you're apprentice, there's no ladder for you. You're not there. Get a gold card. It's the first step. You start looking at stuff that we talk about now, and question everything and try and make these regs books make sense of them. What's that talking about? What's this? Trying to work out cable calculations and all that sort of stuff. You start going down a road where you feel like a bit of a rocket scientist at times. When you work this sort of stuff out, or even when you're fault finding a circuit. When you're fault finding something, that's a bit niche because there's a lot of electricians that can't fault find, let alone normal people. So yeah, it's not an easy job.
I think in terms of attitudes, I think that's what we're talking about, the attitudes of youngsters.
Yeah.
It's always been a bit of a bugbear of mine about how adults of today sort of judge the youngsters that are coming up, because it's all relative. And I guarantee you that adults that moaned about the youngsters were moaned about by their peers.
Yes.
And then their peers were moaned about by their peers, and their peers were moaned about by their peers, because the generations that's coming up has always got it a little bit better, a little bit easier than the generation before. And that's always going to be the case as far as history goes, So we've got to give these youngsters a break, and they are a product of their environment. And if they have got a bad attitude, it's probably not their fault. So let's try and change that. There is a tipping point. There is a point where you go, what, I've given you warning, I've given you support, I've let you do this. We're running out of options now. Maybe this is not for you. But I'd say you need at least 2 years before you should make that call. Because when you're taking for someone who's never worked a day in their life and then putting them to a 50-hour week and then judging them after 6 months, that is nonsense. It is really nonsense. So you've really got to give these kids, and I know there'll be kids watching this, or young adults and apprentices watching this, 16, 17. As far as I can, you are a kid. You are still a kid. You can't even go and buy a bottle of beer. So I say that word carefully. I don't mean it to sound derogatory. These youngsters have just come out of school. So we've got to give them time to adapt to they've gone from playing with kids in a playground to in a adult environment with swearing and horrible stories and things they've never probably heard before, you know, and that's going to take time to adapt. And in my opinion, you shouldn't be no responsible employer should be making a decision on an attitude based on anything less than 18 months.
Yeah, I couldn't have said that better myself, Neil. That's absolutely spot on. I could totally agree with everything you just said there. And sort of flipping that around a little bit, looking at it more from an employer's point of view. So, you know, if you're taking your first steps, as you would have once done, you know, a few years ago, of actually hiring that first person, that first apprentice, and you've got all those worries about finding the right person and then paying them and stuff. What advice would you give to somebody in that position to make that first step onto sort of employing an apprentice? So, you know, you're kind of just at that crossing roads of having the work there to justify it. But I know myself, it was a huge step for me. And it's not an uncommon story, I don't think. So I wondered if you had any tips or your own experiences on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
sorry, go on, Rick.
Finish, mate. No.
Well, yeah. I mean, so sort of the history of. I'll do a quick brief of where I started out on a desk in the corner of my mum's room, the front room. That was my first office, right? And it was just me in the van. I was running around, coming home, doing the paperwork, doing what I could, learn as I go. And real graft, really graft. I don't graft like I did then, but then I was grafting. And it got to a stage where there's always this nervous attitude in my head of, Mark just alluded to it, am I going to be able to pay next month? What if work dries up? What if I don't? What if? And it was all the negative thoughts of what if in my head. I never said, well, what if I can take on double the amount of work? What if I can make double the amount of profit? What if I buy another van? What about if we get two teams working? And it's saying, I think, why was I so binocular vision on the negatives of the what ifs and not looking at the positives of what? And I suppose you need to do that by taking the plunge. And I took the plunge. And before these two current apprentices, I had two apprentices before. They never made it. It was what it was. But I took the plunge, and I look back now, and the same things that was going through my head with my first apprentice when I was a one-man band were the same things when I took on my first electrician, and the same things when I took on my second electrician. You know, it was that fear of what ifs it all goes wrong. And I look back now and I think, oh my God, what a crazy mentality I had, because I wouldn't have anything that I had today. I wouldn't be giving the opportunities to the youngsters I had today if I didn't take them risks at that time. And the risks weren't even that great. I look back now, they really weren't great. But in terms of anyone thinking about taking an apprentice on, if you are currently at your capacity, then it really should be a no-brainer to you. Really should be.
Yeah, good shout, and I can fully agree and support with that. And especially, this is going to get released, I think, in early January, and there still is the grant available for employers to take apprentices on until the end of January. So if you are in that position, me and Neil have described, you well worth looking into that at the minute. But flipping it back onto apprentices again, just briefly, and I'll chuck this one at you, Rick. If you were giving kind of advice to an apprentice who was trying to get an interview or in front of an employer, what kind of thing would you say is a good idea for him to be doing? Because there's a lot of people saying, you know, I just can't get anybody to take notice of me. What would you maybe say is a good route to get in front of some employer's eyes or find a contractor looking for taking on an apprentice?
Yeah, it's hard. It is hard. I look at, like, obviously Morgan Sindall, massive company, but the way they advertise things for positions is mental. It's really bad. It's really bad. So I think if you was looking for an apprenticeship and you went onto a Morgan Sindall site, I think you'd struggle. And I think all big companies are a bit like that. You know, they kind of expect you to do all the work. You know what I mean? It's you go onto their website where most jobs you go on to Total Jobs or CV Library or that. And then when you do go onto these sites that are meant to get the jobs, you're full of agencies. So it is really hard. I've had a few people call me up from when I used to have an electrical company and it's still listed. You know, so, hello, mate, you got any apprentices? You're looking for anyone to take on apprenticeships? I think that's a good way, but I think you've got to, what makes you different to anyone else. Just start having an interview. So the first thing is finding the jobs. I think that's just difficult. I mean, I guess apprentice 1-to-1 helps a lot with that. You've created that middle ground, haven't you? And you know how many people do you put into apprenticeships now? It's
getting on for 300, mate. And that's something that I mentioned to Sam the other day, that a huge part of that is thanks to you boys through EGTE. And we'll talk about that in a little while.
Yeah, sure. So you've got 300 apprentices where you've had 300 employers were looking for apprentices, you couldn't find them, and 300 apprentices that couldn't find employers, but the work was there for both. Yes. Wasn't it? Because so there's 300 positions. That middle ground is the hardest point. Where do you hear about apprenticeship positions? I don't see a lot of people are in one-man bands as well. Go to the bigger companies, go to Grapp Brothers, go to Morgan Sindles, and go to your local social housing contracts, because social housing ain't the best work, but it's always there. It's consistent work, and they're always looking for people to do that. But yeah, second to that, obviously having a half decent CV that's relevant to what you're applying for as well, because you've got to remember, if I'm looking at a CV for an electrician and it's all jazzed up with all these different computer skills, it's all irrelevant. Make your CV relevant. I think when you're having the interview, I think I can probably help a lot with that, with attitude and stuff. And when I'm looking at someone, I don't care what your attitude's like. There's only one thing I really look for. I don't really care what you know either, but you've got to ask questions. So if I'll probably in an interview give someone a question of a task that I know is absolutely impossible to answer, hoping that they ask me how to answer that question. You know what I mean? Or where to look for the answer. If you're asking questions, I can always work with it. Because I work with, so if I tell someone how to do a job, I want to tell someone once. Ask as many questions as you like, but I'm not going to keep repeating myself. If you just turn around and go, I don't know what I'm doing, well, why not? Why don't you ask questions for it? So it's that, yeah. So once you're in that interview position, think about the sort of person interviewing you, probably being an electrician, probably quite proud to be an electrician. So think about it. Why do you want this job? Mum said it's always good to have a trade. Yeah, but probably not the answer I want to be hearing. Do you know what I mean? It's some sort of passion from you.
Yeah. No, you make a brilliant point with the apprenticeships, and that's actually a common question that comes in from a lot of people. It's like, what can I do to prepare for interviews as well? So, if you've got any tips for anyone, Rick, any further tips you might want to give people down to, what they might want to wear? Because I do get questions like that, should I be wearing a suit, or should I be taking in my record of achievement and stuff? So I'll trip this one up both of you, because I can see Neil nodding away.
This is something me and Neil, and I think Sam and Neil disagree with this as well, actually. Should you wear a suit for an interview? I think it depends on what stage of life.
Wrong.
All right. Yeah, for me, I'm not gonna discredit someone for not wearing a suit to an interview. Dress appropriately. Don't turn up in your tracksuit, your Nike Air Max.
Dressing appropriately.
That's not going to work either.
That's relative. It's relative. What's appropriate for you may not be appropriate for them.
That's true. Listen,
my point. A suit is a uniform. It's a neutral thing. You've got one opportunity to make a first impression, and I really think you can go wrong with anything else. You can never go wrong with a suit. So if you want to stack your chances as much in your favour, wear a suit.
But for some genuine advice here, this is genuine advice. Don't wear a suit for your first day at work, because I see that happen once. I was like, mate, why have you got a suit on? My dad said I should wear a suit. He was working in a workshop with us. He came in, if he's still at school, he's 14, the kid, and he's like, he was doing 2 weeks. He was doing a week in the office and a week in the workshop. And he's in this like 3-piece suit waistcoat, and it's all going on, mate. And we're like, mate, we have to get him overalls. So yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, and I think that's what we come to last time when we said about it. I wouldn't criticise you for not wearing a suit, but no one will criticise you for wearing a suit. Exactly. If they do, it definitely says more about them. So yeah, you're not one to wear a suit. And yeah, if you're giving advice, I guess, why would you not wear a suit? But at the same time, if you've got a load of money, you can't go and get a suit, I wouldn't be stressing about it. I wouldn't be going, I need to get 150 quid to go and get. If you're not in that position to go and get one, I wouldn't be stressing about it either.
No, and this is something after I'm quite passionate about, really, in terms of I'm quite conservative in my views, and I like to conserve these old traditions. And if we're honest, you're probably going to go to stand in front of an interview or sit in front of an interviewer that is also a lot older than you. Okay, so they may well share these sort of views. Obviously, that's a complete stereotype, but they may do, they may not. But there's simple things. Don't turn up with mum and dad. You're there as an adult, and that's happened. I've seen that happen. Turned up with their mum and dad. You're now in the big wide world. You should be prepared. Prepare. And I mean prepare. Know who you're going to work for. Know who you're sitting in front with. Know a bit about the company. Know stuff that the company, sort of work they might do. Have these things. Have some questions, like Rick said as well. Have some questions. Well, what do you do about this? What does your company policy about this? Think about where you want to be in 5 years' time. Say your pleases. Say your thank yous. You know, look at the person in the eye. All these basic manners go a long, 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 long way. And if you're going to sit there as a youngster going,
don't do that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so why are you here for? What brings you in then? What are you looking to do? Well, you get me. Like, I thought it was a good idea to get a job. You know, it's just don't bother wasting everyone's time.
I would say as well. Sorry to add to that. Remember, it's a two-way street. Remember, don't say, like you said, say your pleases, say your thank yous, be professional. But part of being professional is knowing that, listen, they're hiring to get something from you too. You know, it's that they're employing you and they're paying you a wage, but they're doing that because they want something from you as well. So ask the relevant questions to make sure it's a long commitment. Apprenticeship is minimum of 4 years before. If you don't finish with that employer, it's very hard to find another employer, and there's certain rules of apprenticeships and stuff. So I'm going to be at this company for the next 4 years. Is that going to work out for me? Is this a fit? Is the person interviewing me, because it works both ways. So I've had some terrible interviews, and I'm just sitting there like, what's it? Like, I went for a job in Sports Direct once, and the geezer was like, I've just finished being an asbestos supervisor, right? And what's the best thing about working with asbestos? What a stupid question. Because when I said money, he looked at me like I was the idiot. You do know, I had to say, you know what asbestos is, mate, didn't you? You know it kills you. It's like, there's nothing, it's good money, mate. Why else would you do it? It's literally, it's shortening my life. That's a stupid question to ask. And another one, I went for a job in a call centre. This was when I was about 18. And I didn't wear a suit, Neil. Funnily, and I didn't wear a suit. And I went in, and it was, the idea was you went onto a website and you looked at a holiday, right? And then once you've looked at the holiday, clicked you're interested, someone will call you up. That was my job. I'll call you up and I'll show you the holiday. All call centre, not customer facing. But they asked me why I wasn't wearing a suit. I said, why would I wear a suit? No one's seeing me. What, you know, it's not an interview that requires anyone to see me. I said, well, we expect everyone to wear suits because it puts you in the right frame of mind. I thought, what the fuck are you talking about? What are you talking about? And if that's a prerequisite, or whatever that word is, to the job, put that in the fucking notes so I don't turn up and look like a dick. No, but that's the way to weed you out. If you're an employer and you've just been given, I've done it. I've advertised for electricians and I've got over 100 CVs. You've got to whittle that down to 5 because I ain't interviewing for 100 people. I'm not interviewing 20 people. You know what? I'm not interviewing 10. So 90 of them I've got to weed out. And you'll be surprised at the things you come across. You go, right, sorry, it's not you. Who doesn't get past the CV level because they've done so. It could be grammar. It could be a poor CV. Like, we go back to CVs, get your CV sorted, make it relevant, as Rick said. Don't just chuck in a load of generic crap. So knowing that, so you get 100 applicants, you're only going to interview 5, so you've got to get rid of 95. So you're going like this, aren't you? You're picking it up, bam, bam, bang, right? Picking the next one up, bam, bam, bang. So how important is it what you put on that first page, the first thing you read? And everyone says it. You've got to remember as well, a lot of bigger companies have keyword searches. They keyword your CV before they even look at it. They'll just put, right, we're looking for this, and this. But in Neil's case, looking at CVs, and in my case, looking at that first page, a CV should never be more than 2 pages long. I mean, to be honest, if you're sort of 16, 17, 1 page. Literally. Yeah. Like, I've had CVs sent to me that I'm looking at going, I don't even know this person's name or their contact details. And I'm going, they've even missed their name and contact details. And I'm going, well, guess where that's going?
See you later.
What about a cover letter? Do you like a cover letter?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do like a cover letter. Something personal, and that will tip me off a lot. I will look at that and go, that person's gone a little bit extra than just spamming out CVs, because some people will just spam out CVs like and try and send out 500 CVs and maybe get 5 bites. Okay, that little touch, and it's a great tip there, Rick, is that little touch of dear Mr. Bridgeman, I noticed you're advertising for electricians.
Touch.
Yeah,
not a generic cover letter.
No, exactly. I see you advertising for electricians. I can see you working the rail, and it's something that's really excited me. I quite like the idea of doing the crazy hours that railway brings, and it's exciting.
Everyone loves that.
But if you're an employer, I'm going, can he be my long lost brother? I was like, you know what I mean? It's like I look at that is, and I can only speak from my experiences on what floats my boat, and I'll see something like that on a CV, a decent cover letter, and like I say, don't go War and Peace, just a paragraph, 4 or 5 sentences max, because you ain't reading after that. If it's like page, I'm not reading on that page. 4 or 5 sentences, just a little brief, dear Mr. Bridgeman or dear Mr. Howell, blah blah blah. And that will go a hell of a long way, probably more than the CV will.
100%. A CV is a necessity. A cover letter is something you can put person. You can't. It's very hard to put a personality into a CV. Very difficult, because it's just a generic thing, isn't it? You put a lot of personality into a cover letter. You can make it personal for the person reading it as well. These are important things. But that's going to make me feel like he's taking a little bit of time. He actually wants this job. He's really taking the time to write a cover letter.
That is an absolutely brilliant tip with the cover letters on there. I couldn't agree more. Like you say, it is just that personal touch, and it's showing that you've actually paid a bit of attention to the job you're applying for. So if there are any apprentices listening, that's a golden bit of advice there from Rick and Neil, and you want to be paying attention to that and getting your cover letters written. I want to take us slightly into some of the more deeper aspects of the apprenticeship system, though, because there's some big questions, and we've spoken about them on Monday Club, and I've asked other people these on this series already. But what are your 2 thoughts on kind of how the apprenticeship system's set up at the minute? Because, there seems to be multiple angles where it's failing for me in colleges and with employers, and even down to the fact of finding jobs at the end of it all. So I just wondered what you 2 thought on the apprenticeship system as a whole. Where are you at with it, as in right now, as today?
Well, I think my biggest thing that really does fucking wind me up, and it really gets to me, is colleges that don't want to pay fucking tutors money. So they want you to come out, they want you to be apprentice trained yourself, so they want time served, fully qualified, 2391, being able to teach people, but you ain't got a teaching degree, so we'll give you 25 grand a year. The fuck are you talking about? You've got to at least pay what I could pay getting on the tools. Otherwise you end up people like Gary Hayes, brilliant teachers, only done the job because he hurt his back. Yes, but that's not the truth of it. He hurt his back, so he didn't have no choice but to become a teacher. That's the only way they're getting good teachers in. They don't want to pay any money. And then you've got other colleges that go through this massive routine of paying crap, getting crap. And this has just happened to Jamie because he was at a really bad college. And then they've just taken on a tutor from 100 miles away, paying him a fortune because the free tutors, they were so bad. So why not just, it's mental, mate. When I went, because I was going to go into teaching a little while ago, and I spoke to Bob Nacida. He put me in touch with a guy called Colin Seabrook that was at Havering College. Went really, really, really well. And then when I went there, all the tutors there were like, mate, you've got to have something on the side, mate. You've got to have something on the side. I don't want something on the side. I want to be a teacher. I want to teach this for a little while, and this would be my 100% focus. Mate, money's not good enough. Money's not taught me out of it. It winds me up, mate. There's enough money. We know a college, what's an apprenticeship? About 10 grand over 3 years.
I think Gary Hayes had said they get about 4 grand a year a student, I think.
So 4 grand a year per student, 20 students in a class is enough there for a fucking tutor, isn't there? Let's be honest. And they just don't want to pay the money. Really frustrating. The apprenticeship program as a whole, it's it's imperfect, but I think it's kind of, you'll get out of it what you put in. I think a lot of education's like that in a way, and certainly now with CPD and the stuff we do, it's very much the case, isn't it? The more time and effort you put into learning, the more you're going to get out of it. I think that starts from the apprenticeship. And it's good to get it in your head. And as Sam and me always used to say, is there's not a better time to become an electrician. There's not a better time. Now's the time. But there's just so much content out there. There's so much content on YouTube and stuff. And so overall, I don't think the apprenticeship as a whole is in a bad place. Not too bad. But yeah, learning the college part of it is absolutely atrocious. I remember from that $4,000 per student per year, they're only at college 1 day a week. So you've got 5 days a week to fill. That's a lot of money. Where is that money going? It's not going on fucking materials, is it? Because it's like when you're going to college, you've got a board that's fucking 15 years old, a different breaker to the board that you're using, which we know is a massive no-no, but that's how you're teaching them in college. It's mental, mate. Where's the money going?
Yeah, you're spot on, because I've had kids, not kids, but new apprentices telling me how they're pulling clips out of these boards and cable and reusing it.
Reusing clips.
Yeah, it's mad. It's absolute madness. And you made a lot of good points there, Rick, with the colleges, and it's something I've experienced with my own apprentices as well. And it's a very common story coming in through Apprentice 1-to-1, that the state of the teaching that they're getting in a lot of places, and certainly the materials and tools they've been given with to practice with while they're there, it's not the best. So what do you think, Neil? What's your opinion on it?
So look at the system. That's the question: is the system broken? And I don't think the system's broken. I don't think you can do much else with it. So what is the system at the moment? We're looking at 2 years part 1, 1 year part 2. Is that correct? Yeah. That's your theory based, your college stuff. And then you're looking up to 2. Is it still up to 2 years for an MVQ?
Roughly, yeah. Some of them do it a bit quicker, I think, but generally it's a couple of years.
So, and then your MVQ normally overlaps year 3, doesn't it, of your theory? Yeah. So you're looking at 4 to 5 years, all right? 4 days a week on site. So you're only at college 1 day a week. And then at the end of everything, you do your AM2, which is a bit of a verification to make sure that what you're saying you've done has not been fudged. All right. So the system, I think, is quite decent. What you've got is it's really easy to abuse, and you've got people with bad attitudes that will abuse that system. I know there's as Sam said the other day with the you can go and buy an MVQ, but you know what? You can probably buy anything on the black market. It's about that person. It's not the system you can blame. It's about that person. So, yeah, you can buy these dodgy MVQs, but trust me, day 1, week 1 of working with a gold card, you've been sussed, mate. So it's the age-old teacher analogy. You're only cheating yourself. You're only cheating no one else. You're cheating yourself. So really, these paid-for MVQs are worthless. So they're not cheating the system. They're cheating themselves. And then you've got the employers that need to take more responsibility in terms of they've got these guys for 90% of their time, 80% of their time in a week. Why is so much on the college? They're only at the college 1 day a week, and even that's a 7.5 hour week. So, yeah, I think we need to sort of more businesses and one-man bands need to take more ownership of the apprentices that are underneath them and push them, hold them to account, know where they're at, and let them know it's not just my job's done, you're at college, mate.
I think one thing that I've been really eager to push, and something else I spoke to Bob about actually, colleges in the local area, as an employer, you should have a close relationship with a college that you're sending your apprentices to. It shouldn't be 2 separate entities. If you've got a good relationship with the head of the electrical department, if you want to just keep it that way, keep it at the top level, it's going to help, and you're going to get proper reports back. You're really going to find out on a monthly basis rather than a term basis or even a yearly basis how they're getting on. And I think it's good, especially if you, like me, I want to start an apprenticeship program. I've got contract I work on as an aging workforce. There's 4 people over the age of 55. It's a 15-year contract with 4 years into it. So, over the next 11 years, we're going to lose the whole electrical team. Yeah. Good to have apprentices, that's the kind of the purpose. So if we're going to take on 1 or 2 apprentices a year, every year for the next 4 years, it kind of makes sense to have that good relationship with college. But that's an 8-year program, isn't it? You're talking 8 years. So, yeah, don't just sort of go do a little bit of research into the colleges, and it's not desperately hard. It's not desperately hard to find out. If you really want to just speak to someone, just ask Bob. Ask Bob, mate. Bob knows so much about that sort of stuff. It was one email to him. I said, "What do you think of this college, Bob?" He went, "Actually, that's not that good, Rick. It's not that good. Go to this one." Sent an email to the college, introduced me over email. Job done, mate. The geezer is an absolute legend for that. So thanks,
If
Bob.
you are watching, reach out to Rick.
Appreciate
I'm sure
that, Bob.
you'll know if you're watching, you don't got a clue who Rick's talking about. Reach out to Rick, and I'm sure he'll put you in touch.
I won't, but no,
Well,
absolutely, mate.
If you're watching on YouTube, Bob might actually comment because he has on the last one.
He does that, Bob. Yeah, he's a true industry legend, and he should be more involved at a higher level. Is my honest opinion. There should be.
And he's from my neck of the woods, or he definitely lives in my neck of the woods, I think, doesn't he? So, or my old neck of the woods.
I don't know, mate. I thought he lived near me. I ain't got a clue.
Way, innit?
Oh, yeah, well, yeah. You're not there now, are you?
Nah.
You can't be much further away from
29 years, come on.
Yeah, I think he is around that sort of way. But yeah, he often says, why ain't the bigger people in the industry doing stuff, opening colleges and stuff like that? You know, when are the IET gonna look into it? You know, and look at the training and this and that and whatever.
Look at Pimlico, they got some they got sort of an in-house apprenticeship system, even so far.
And all that geezer gets he's slagged to the ground, doesn't he? Yeah. Slagged to the ground.
He's even got a motor workshop there, isn't he? They hire apprentices to work on the vehicles. It's quite.
He's got a good haircut. I'll give him that.
The local Botox clinic loves him.
I like the guy, but he does come under a lot of criticism.
Like him as well, yeah.
He comes under a lot of criticism, but he don't talk bollocks, does he?
No, it's all, you know what you're getting, don't you? It's as simple as that. But it's the same way he runs his business. You know, all the hourly fees and charges are all on there. It's no shadow work or hiding or anything like that. It's all clear for everyone to see.
You want to earn a lot of money? Go and start working in Chelsea. It's already done, wasn't it? Working in Chelsea, Westminster, them sort of places. People are going to pay a lot of money for you. It's that simple, isn't it? It's the ideal client situation.
So I want to bring this back a little bit towards apprentices now, and this is a question I've asked a few other people as well. If I was to give you both £100 and you were 16, 17 years old, about to go into college and your first apprenticeship job, what would you be buying? Don't have to be a brand, but the first sort of...
What, 16 or 17?
Yeah, so your first
probably a brass.
Yeah, your first set of tools. Let's be more specific.
I'm joking. I think that's the world we live in now, isn't it? 16. In all honesty, probably not a lot for £100 nowadays.
Well,
what
yeah.
I don't know if you get a fucking bag for £100 anymore, can you?
Your first set of hand tools, then, within a reasonable budget that might be within an apprentice's grasp.
Well, what do you need to start? So I can actually tell you. So when we done these apprentice kits, we get to Bob for competition. We built 5 kits. Each one of them kits was £300. So it was a CK bag, screwdrivers, whatever. But I think the absolute essentials is obviously set of screwdrivers. I recommend Klein. I don't know if you've used Klein, but they are the best screwdrivers. I was always a CK man, but them new Klein screwdrivers are pretty good. Make sure you've got a 3.5 in a PZ2 minimum. If you're really going short, you have to get a screw truce.
Every apprentice is going, what is a 3.5 and a PZ?
Well, listen, go and research, Google it. Google what a 3.5 terminal screwdriver is in a PZ2, because they're going to be your 9 times out of 10. That's what you're going to.
If you don't need them, you'll make them fit.
Well, yeah, exactly, yeah. Pair of cable croppers or snips, depending on. We don't like snips, we know that, but if the person's training you is using snips, then that's what you're going to start using. But something to cut and strip cable. For a situation you're in, if you're doing SWAs, you're going to need a hacksaw, containment, and stuff like that. Yeah, £100. Screwdrivers, cable croppers, tape measure, Sharpie.
Sharpie's a good one. That's
Sharpie.
Proper sparks.
Spout level, spirit level. Spirit level. What else would you need?
Toolbox
Stanley
belt.
blade.
Tool belt.
You're not for £100, mate. You're gonna have to carry them in a Tesco bag.
Yeah, yeah. You wouldn't get a tool bag.
I mean, look, you've got a choice. You can either get some tools with no tool bag, or a tool bag with no tools. You're not getting both for £100.
Yeah, but listen, I remember when I first I still remember sitting in the living room with my first set of tools, getting electrical tape and putting around electrical tape. No, someone to know what I was so proud of my first set of tools, and they were probably £100 back then. You can do it. Don't worry about name brands. Go and get what you can afford. As any electrician is going to have you is going to be grateful that you've got hand tools. They don't care what make they are. So go and get your cheapest that you can afford. Set of screwdrivers, a cheap hammer, a little cone chisel, because you're going to be doing loads of chasing out. Don't worry about that. A hammer. And if you can afford it, a little £20 tester, voltage tester. If you can afford one, a little cheap one. It don't matter. When you're 16, 17, the brand, it's so unimportant. Just go and get what can get you working and get you respected in the workplace. And you can go to very many cheap places where there's like nameless brands and pick up some hand tools for £100. I have no doubt at all.
That's some great advice, and it's a very, very common question that I've been asked.
Just one on that, Mark. If you're taking on an apprentice, buy them tools.
Yeah,
don't let them buy their own tools, and why not work it into a rewards program? Set them a task every 3 months. So when someone he's been here 3 months now, he's achieved this. Set your own goals. Right, here's your tool bag. 3 months down the line, is this, and then accumulate at the end where you could get him his own combi drawing impact or something. They'll buy their own tools anyway, but sort something out. So
it's a great reason to spend some of that grant money you've got from the government if you're taking someone on. I mean, if you're getting, what is it, about two grand? Is it now?
Yeah, if they're up to 18, you get an extra £2,000, and you get the existing 1,000 as well. So it's three altogether.
So what's £500 out of that? You know what I mean? Go and kit up. I would say, I think they need to learn a bit. So I wouldn't go and kit them out with the best stuff. I wouldn't kit out everything. I think it's part of your progression to sort of work towards more.
A reward program's good. As you go along, you sort of build up their toolkit as to what they've probably be needed at that time.
But there's something about going out and having your own gear. There is something about it, and if you want to do it, and your parents or your grandparents have given you a little bit of money to go and get yourself a first tools kit. Don't get caught up in the hype that's out there in terms of brands. At that age, it does not matter. And most of these tools are throwaway tools anyway. The amount of screwdrivers I've gone through.
It's like having your first car, isn't it? You're going to dent it, you're going to smash it, you're going to drop your tools, you're going to break them, you're going to use a slotted screwdriver to try and pry that screw out, and it's going to snap. Yeah. And
you're going to leave them in a ceiling void or under a floor somewhere and lose them as well.
Yeah. Pad saw. You need a pad saw. That's another one.
Pad saw is a good one. Yes.
Nice.
I'll tell you what you should do. You should work for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, and then ask the electrician what sort of tools you think I should get.
Yeah, what do you keep nicking off the other electricians?
Yes. Every time, because you'll soon get bored of losing that terminal. Because you've got to realise as an apprentice, everything that goes wrong is your fault.
Yes,
that's what I was taught. True. It's your fault. Even if I had done it, it's your fault because I should know better, and I can blame you and get away with it. That's what I was taught.
My first drill I bought a combi drill. And old NICAD DeWalt combi drill. Yeah, no impact. Cost me £100. That lasted me 4.5 years.
Do you remember the Boss Big Boy? I had a Boss Big Boy.
DeWalt. Mate. So yeah, when it comes to money, listen, you're going to spend a lot of money on tools as an electrician.
Yeah, get used to it.
Multi-function testers are grand. So there's going to be plenty of time to spend money.
It's worth saying as well, don't get stressed about it. Most electricians are not expecting you to turn up with tools on day one. Don't stress about it. Concentrate on your first steps. Concentrate on being early, being ready for work in terms of you've got your PPE you've been issued, you're dressed appropriately. Make sure you're not turning up on day 3 going on trains late. Make that your priority in your first few weeks, and then start building your tool. Don't stress about, I've got to spend this money to get a job. Don't stress about that, because most electricians are not going to be expecting you to turn up with tool bags. So don't worry too much.
In fact, concentrate on getting your driving license. That should be your first goal at 18 or 17. If you haven't got your driving license yet as an apprentice, get that done. Get that done so the geezer working can have a pint. Say that was a drive home.
That's another cracking tip. I'm just going to pick your brains on one more question while I've got you both here. And it's kind of at the other end of the apprenticeship. And it's another really common question that I've been asked. And it's kind of what you can do to set yourself apart at the end of your apprenticeship. So you're kind of coming out as a qualified electrician. What kind of courses would you be recommending, people look towards, if it's electrical based or even if it's like iPath and things like that? What would be your suggestion? Because there's a lot of people who don't seem to be finishing the time and ending up in proper electrician's jobs. Quite a few of them are let go, sadly. So they're kind of looking towards what they can do to stand out and give themselves a good chance of getting a job. What would be your two idea on that?
I think that the next stage from qualifying as an electrician, especially if you're going down the gold card electrician route. So obviously, gold cards are only relevant to sites. Don't need them everywhere. But most people will go and get a gold card. The next logical stage for a gold card is to become an approved electrician. So that means 2391 and 2 years post experience. So I'd be spending a good 12 months getting experience, get your testing going on, go get your 2391, become an approved electrician. Because it's the easiest thing to achieve straight off the bat. Then after that, you've got to kind of decide which way you want to go, because it's relevant in different ways. If you want to go and start as a one-man band, there's go and do it. Really, there's nothing you need to do. There's no golden rule to that. You need to get good at invoicing and be good with customers and stuff. But if you're sort of a company man, which is the way I'm going, then you've got to be looking at something that I walked away from. I've got to get back on next year is joining the IET and getting them professional registration done and sort of going down that route. That'll make you stand out.
They won't have you.
Yeah,
exclusive there. Rick's going back.
I'm sure
that's a big backtrack.
Money. I'm sure they'll have. To be honest, no, but we'll save this. We're not talking about the IET on here.
My advice would be apply your trade. Apply the stuff that you've learned. I wouldn't rush into doing any further courses straight away. Go and learn to be an electrician. It's like you've passed your driving test. Now go and learn to drive. You're now apply your trade. Remember, you're like on year one of being left out alone. How can you start thinking about doing other courses? You're only just starting to work on your own. So apply your trade, build your confidence, but have a plan. Don't just stay in this never-ending grey area of I'm not developing. Say, look, within 5 years I want me 2391. Within 10 years I want me 2396. And think about it. It could be 2 years and 4 years. What works for you? It may well be, I'm sick of rewires. I want to go and do something in industrial. I want to do something commercial. But remember, if you've got your gold card and you've just done your domestic, and you've only done a little bit of commercial to get through your MVQ, then you're probably going to go into an industry where your value is a lot less to where you're leaving. So yeah, my advice is apply your trade and get really, really, really tunnel vision on what you want to do and master it, and then you'll be your value will go through the roof.
Completely against everything you just said. Learn some other trades as well. Because listen, if you do go out and work by yourself, there's not one person in the world that wants to hire an electrician and a plumber to put a shower in, for instance. So I'm not saying go and do a plumbing course. Learn a little bit of plumbing, learn a little bit of plastering. When you chase out a wall so you can make it good. Yeah. Just little things. Don't go. These ain't courses. These are just stuff. Especially if you work on site, you can pick up little gems of information from other trades just by watching what they're doing. And sort of roll with that. I never learned any plumbing until I started doing social housing sparking. You know what I mean? But it's, for instance, in terms of sticking a shower in, it's quite easy. I'm not a plumber. I'm not going to go and do start central heating system as a gas engineer or anything like that, or go and plumb up someone's house. But learning how to stick a bit of pipe onto a bit of pipe and get some water running through it through a shower. These are little things that are easy to pick up and you should know.
Yeah, those are brilliant tips you've both given there across quite a wide range. So if people are still listening to that, I
completely
recommend
conflicting, but
no, well, it's all good. It's all good. This is all about getting people's honest opinions and experiences, and there's a lot of people who benefit from it. And just before we want to go, I want to kind of close on the Apprentice one-to-one journey. And Rick mentioned some of the numbers earlier on, and I don't say these to boast. That's not what it's about. It's really to make people aware that this is just quite a small thing, and I've had all this volume of people getting in touch through Apprentice one-to-one just to try to highlight the kind of issues that are out there. And none of this would really have happened if it wasn't for first speaking with Rick It was him who I first had a chat with on the phone. I remember it well because I was emergency light testing with a stupid big visor on my face. And we were on the phone for quite a while, and he kind of opened my eyes to where this could go to actually help a lot more people than I was. So there's a big thanks there to you for that. And Neil, again, later on, just for sharing all of this on your social media channels and speaking about it on the podcast and out in industry as well. There's now been over 10,000 interactions across all the social media platforms and the website. There's I think there's getting on for 4,000 apprentices who've inquired at one time or another for some form of help. Not all looking for jobs. 300 nearly in employment. And I did a little tally up the other day, and I mentioned this on the chat with Sam, but 43 who came through EGTE ended up in actual jobs. So, that's incredible that you guys helped to do that. And like I said, it's not a burst. It's just to try to show that if we're finding that in this small way, what else is probably going on out there as well.
In a personal achievement here as well, for anyone that's kind of thinking to do this sort of thing, Mark, 6 months ago, you're not doing this podcast.
And
you are not sitting there hosting a podcast.
Bullshit.
Yes,
no, definitely not.
Even by helping other people, look where you've came, as your personal journey. So if anyone's thinking, I'd like to do something like that, or you don't pay no money, you don't do this, and it reaps other rewards. We've made probably lifelong friendships here.
100%.
And yeah, I remember it was the WhatsApp, wasn't it? WhatsApp Mark versus podcast Mark, and now the two are merging.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say, thank you, but I think you're being extremely humble. The work you've put in is phenomenal. The hours you work, it's probably not work. The hours you put into it, and I'm talking physical time. There's been no automation and not been able to do it. So it's a physical action of Mark having to be behind the scenes, joining the dots, linking people together. You're the star of the show, and you've done. Yeah, I think you should rightly be proud of them numbers. Well done, mate.
Yeah, no, cheers, and thanks to you both for coming on and talking about this so honestly and openly. But before you go, I want to wish you a happy new year, because this will be going out 1st of January, I think. And have you got anything exciting coming up through 2021? What you both got going on? Where can people find you?
Well, anyone can just type my name in. I've got in all the social media when it all started, so there's no silly names like Electrician 24/7, nothing like that. Just normal Neil Bridgeman.
The bearded spark, that dick.
Bearded spark, we're just nonsense, isn't it? It's absolute nonsense.
Total nonsense.
You can never shave again. I mean, how stupid is that?
I don't think I ever would, to be fair. I don't think I ever would.
But just I suppose to jump on this bandwagon a little bit, we're going to be doing a podcast called The Electrician Show that we're going to release some stuff in the new year, and it's going to be sort of topical based, learning based discussion at a Sparks level, and see where that goes. It's going to be for us, and if someone else gets something from it, all the best. But watch your space. We're already on Instagram doing a little bit. It's very difficult. I don't really do much tool work, but we'll start pushing it out on the channels just to keep people aware. But hope you enjoy it.
Now that sounds really exciting, and me and Rick will be appearing on there with you, just to, widen the enjoyment.
Laugh at, don't I? I need something to laugh at.
Yeah, of course you do.
Well, bit of co-hosting going on. I look forward to it. Out of hibernation, I guess. Out of hibernation, because that's been obviously this hibernating nonsense. No more next year. There you go.
Yeah, it's been too long with you both not on a podcast the last few weeks.
I've actually really enjoyed this. He's actually sort of triggered the bug again. Yeah, really enjoyed it. So thanks for the invitation, Mark. Thank you very much.
No, it's been lovely to chat with you both and giving up your Saturday evening as well. So thanks very much, and we'll leave it there. Hope people got some enjoyment of it. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and if you've got any questions for anyone, I'll put it in the show notes of where you can contact Neil and Rick, and where the Apprentice One-to-One website is. If we can help anyone at all, get in touch. So thank you very much. Bye now.
Thanks a lot, Mark. Tell them, mate.
See you later.